So in the previous lecture, we already created this new notification hub service inside of Microsoft Azure. And we noticed that we can actually add some information for both Apple and Google for this notification hub to eventually be able to send those notifications to our iOS application and our Android application. And throughout this lecture, we're going to start configuring the things needed for our Android application to receive those push notifications. And we start right here in the notification hub. And we notice that for Google, this is asking an API key that probably has to do with these things that we see over here, GCM and FCM. Now, GCM is actually Google Cloud Messaging and FCM is Firebase Cloud Messaging. And nowadays, Google Cloud Messaging actually migrated to be Firebase Cloud Messaging. So what we actually have to do is navigate over to firebase.google.com. Now, Firebase is an amazing tool for mobile developers. It allows for a lot of things. So if you navigate here, you will actually find all of the different things that you could achieve with Firebase, all the way from Cloud Firestore and Cloud Functions, authentication, real-time databases, cloud storage, Crashlytics, Google Analytics, predictions, and among all of these services that you have access to via Firebase, you have cloud messaging, which is exactly the thing that we have to somehow connect here over to our notification hub. So if we select cloud messaging in here, we will actually be navigated to a little bit more of a description of what this is. Essentially, it allows us to send notifications to our Android devices. So what we have to do in here is navigate over to the console. Now, either you have to create your Google account, sign in with that Google account, or just use whatever Google account that you currently have and either navigate to the console from over here at the top right, or click visit the console from here. And from the console, what we will have to do is actually create a new project. So when creating the new project, we're going to, of course, set the project name. And let's just call this Xamarin Finance and click on continue. From here, you could optionally enable Google Analytics for this project for A/B testing, predicting user behavior, and so on. It's not necessary for what we're going to be doing. I am just going to disable this and click on Create Project. Now, this is way more than just that Firebase Cloud Messaging. By creating this project from the Firebase console, you have access to a lot of other Firebase services. But we are going to be using it precisely for that cloud messaging. It all starts right here. Notice that Android is not the only kind of app that we can connect to the service, but it is the one that we need right now. So right here, I am going to select Android in this small icon here in the main page for the project. And I am going to register my application. Now, it is very important that in here, I enter the exact same package name that we can find over on our Android project over on Visual Studio. So if I select my Android project and I navigate over to Properties and open the Android manifest, I will be able to find this package name. The package name, this is exactly what we want. So I'm going to be copying it and pasting it over here. This is the ID. This is how we know which app we are registering. I can optionally add a nickname, a certificate SHA. I'm just going to go ahead and register the app. Now, this file, this Google Services JSON file is very important. So I am going to go ahead and download that JSON file. We're going to be adding it to our project in just a minute. For now, let's just click on Next. We don't have to do this. This is in case we're working with Kotlin or Java from Android Studio. We are not, so we are just going to ignore this. Click on Next and click on Continue to Console. Now, I am going to go ahead and locate this JSON file in my Finder, so here on my Downloads folder, and I am going to open Visual Studio. So I have this side by side. Now, my JSON file has to be added to my Android project. So I am going to copy or move that file inside of my Android project right here. Now what we have to do with this file is change its build action to Google Services JSON. However, by default, we won't have access to that particular configuration because for that, we're going to need to add a new package. So inside of the Android project, and these packages are only added to this Android project, I am going to right-click on Packages, select Manage Node.js Packages, and I am going to search for a couple of packages in here. The first one, and one of the most important in here, is xamarin.googleplayservices.base, and it should be one of the first options to appear right here. Now notice there is a basement package in here. This is not the one that you want. It is this one, googleplayservices.base. So select this one and click on Add Packages. Now, since we are here, we are going to be adding a couple more packages as well. So I'm going to right-click on this, Manage Node.js Packages, search this time for xamarin.firebase.messaging, and it is right here. This is the one that will allow us to communicate with Firebase. We are going to take a closer look at this in a future lecture. For now, let's just get this out of the way and add all of the packages that we need. And finally, we are going to be adding a package to communicate with our Azure Notification Hub. So we're going to add xamarin.azure.notificationhubs.android right here. Make sure, by the way, that the author is Microsoft themselves. So select this one, click on that package, and that's all the packages that we need for Android. So this time we should be able to right-click on the Google Services JSON file and change the build action to Google Services JSON. Notice that it has been added right here. So there we go. We have that file that we have just downloaded from the Firebase console inside of our project and already with the correct build action, but we are not done with the console just yet. If you navigate over to the project settings over here, right next to this project overview option, select project settings, you're going to find a cloud messaging tab. And in here, you're going to find your own server key. Now, this is very private. Do not share it with everyone, but just go ahead and copy this string. And this, as you may have guessed it, is the one that you have to paste right here as the API key for the Google FCM in your notification hub. So just paste your server key and click on save. Now your notification hub will be able to communicate directly with your Firebase application. So this is everything that we have to configure right now for the communication between our Firebase application and the notification hub, as well as all of the settings that we had to add right here to our Android project inside of our Xamarin solution. Now, in the next lecture, we're going to be doing something rather similar, but for our iOS application. So right now, we already have the settings here for Google, but not yet for Apple. So let's jump over to the next lecture and figure out what is it that we need to do to get these settings ready.